1, 2, 3, 4.
And hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stay Tuned Sports, episode 5. Last week, you guys saw we had a 4 and 4.5. Obviously we're still having a little bit of the issues trying to connect between me and King, and we have some ideas in the pipeline to hopefully figure that out. Hopefully King will, I'm pretty sure he'll have a episode this week, especially with tonight being Game 5 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Capitals leading 3-1. Will Vegas become strong again and, pull a comeback and win the next 3 games to win it all? Fairly quiet weekend, for myself. Did get the bare knuckle brawl, bare knuckle boxing, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I will say it was very entertaining. It definitely exceeded my expectations of what it was. We'll talk a little bit basketball. Cavaliers, Sixers. Especially with the Sixers fiasco that was going on with their GM. We'll also get into earlier today with T.O. declining his Hall of Fame invitation, and you'll see how I truly feel about T.O. And also talk a little bit about the whole Donald Trump versus the Philadelphia Eagles saga. I'm not very political, but I'm starting to get sick and tired of it. Of the whole Trump versus NFL thing. But again, that'll probably be more in the middle of the show. We'll get into that. But so we'll start off with the NBA with Cleveland Cavaliers losing. I believe it was last night they played. It was either last night or it was last night. I had to laugh a little bit when I woke up and I saw that they lost before I went to bed. Someone posted on Twitter. They were wheeling in and it looked like a big giant L, and the meme was bringing the L in for the Warriors. And then when I woke up, it was played rewound, and the caption was Cavaliers taking the L back home or back out, something like that. But it was kind of funny. But that ends the Cavaliers season, and possibly LeBron moving on to the next team, which quite possibly could be the 76ers. Which, I mean, if he were to show up with the Sixers, that team would be very impressive. With, Ben Simmons there, and I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, Joel Embiid, I think it is. But I mean, just seeing some highlights throughout the season with those guys, they're a very talented and very young group of guys, and just to be doing it together for a year or two since they could been healthy together, it's very impressive. And if you stick LeBron in there, it'd almost be like another super team, just about 10 years younger. And speaking of the Sixers, it's been going on for at least a week now about their GM Colangelo supposedly having burner Twitter accounts bashing some of the players, some of the front office people, trying to defend himself. So investigation was put in place to find out, was it really him? Because he was denying it, saying it wasn't him. He would never do something like that. And turns out it was his wife, with all the burner accounts and putting down former players, players that are on teams now. Some information like I'm not even sure if he's still on if he's still on the team, but the injury that the one player had is what caused the one trade for him to fall through. So I mean, after having the investigation and everything, that the Sixers finally realized, okay, he didn't do it, but we don't trust you no more. So they accepted his resignation, and the head coach is taking over the GM duties for now as they search for a new GM. And but you know what? I mean, maybe having the head coach of this team looking at the possible free agents to go after might not be a bad idea, because I mean, again, he's taken a very young team to the playoffs within 2-3 years of putting these players together, and maybe just hiring a consultant for him, until he gets some experience as a GM of how to do all this, how to do the trades, the salary caps, all that, all that stuff, and go from there. But with Colangelo, reading up on him and everything, this really did take his career definitely did take a hit here. He was very well known, and I think it said he was a 2 or 3 time executive of the year, and I just wonder if any other teams are going to be able to trust him. He says that he never shared any of this information with his wife, very sensitive information. Well, how did your wife find out about it? Who were you talking to that she was around, and to be able to hear you about it? So it's a very interesting thing that happened. Just makes you wonder, in all sports, are there any burner accounts for other GMs and coaches and players and stuff like that? Which brings me to T.O., because he's fairly active on Twitter. Which, speaking of Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter at Jimbo ST Sports. You can give a shout out to King on Twitter at King of Skunk Duck, or you can follow us, the show, at ST Sports Podcast. I've been lately doing a lot more live tweeting during UFC fights or any type of live sporting events. And I did it for the bare knuckle boxing, and had some interactions with some of the fans, which was pretty cool, pretty fun. And I don't mind some arguments. I mean, there were some arguments on there with me, so I'm okay with that. I like to have some little interactions with you. But back to the T.O. situation. So earlier today, T.O. announced that he is not going to the Hall of Fame inductions ceremony. He said that he in a statement he released, said that he'd rather celebrate it different area with different type of situation, and details will be coming soon. I mean, is anyone really surprised that T.O. pulled this? He's always been about himself, even when he was with the Niners. I mean, that's where he started to go downhill with the selfishness. Jerry Rice was on the team, bashed him because he wanted to be the guy. But I'm sorry, you're not You know Jerry Rice. Is his stats impressive? Should he have been in the Hall of Fame? Yes, he should have been. But not first year nominee. And a lot of people thought he should have been. And I said, and I've argued with King about this for a while, that stats, when it comes to Hall of Fame, stats shouldn't be everything. It should be the person as well too. And his selfishness between the 49ers, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Cowboys, it always followed him. Wherever he went, it always followed him. And, I won't lie, when he was available from the 49ers, when we traded for him, I was excited, because you ask anybody that knows me when it comes to Eagles, I love Don McNabb. He was my first real quarterback that I like to follow. And as T.O. said, that's my quarterback. That's my quarterback, man. And I've always followed him. Even when we went to the Redskins, I got a little McFarland model of him. I didn't care that he went to the Redskins. It's just I liked him, and I thought he, at the end there, got a bad shake, getting traded to the Redskins. But that's the nature of the business, and you have to accept it. And then when we traded for him, and almost got to the Super Bowl, almost won it, and then that off season when he started pulling I want a new contract and redone and this and that and the other thing. Dude, you just signed a year ago. You shouldn't be even eligible to even look at your contract. You should have got a better agent to negotiate that contract for you. So he held out and took shots at McNabb, took shots at Andy Reid, started doing the sit-ups in his driveway, like just all that stuff, just disrespectful. And I mean, if you really want to be a team player and want to win the big game, show up, do your job, go home. Okay, say it's your last year of contract, that's when you start negotiating and saying what you're worth, not the year after you sign. And I think all that type of stuff is what hurt him from getting in as a first ballot Hall of Famer. And when he did finally get voted in, I just knew something like this was going to happen. He was going to make a big deal about it. I was glad that they didn't kind of make him like the head of the class type deal. I'm not really sure who is the head of class, just because there are so many great inductees going in. I hope my boy Brian Dawkins is, because he was a beast on the field and very, very smart with his words and his speeches. Very motivational. If I was the Hall of Fame committee, I would withdraw his induction. Like, what greater achievement can you get other than winning a Super Bowl than being inducted into the Hall of Fame? And you want to sit there and say, oh, I want to celebrate a different way. What, you want to sit at home and celebrate with your family? Take them with you. Take them to Canton with you. I mean, you still have money. It's not like it's going to cost you $5 billion to take your family there. I'm sure you get a certain amount of tickets for yourself. And but when I saw that today, I'm like, yeah, typical T.O. And even some of the ESPN writers and the NFL Network writers I've been seeing say, that's T.O. being T.O., which is a shame because he's a very talented receiver. One talented person that isn't is Mr. Donald Trump, as far as it comes to football. So couple days ago, the Philadelphia Eagles were supposed to go to the White House for the Super Bowl ceremony for the champions, and a handful of Eagles players weren't going to go. And the president released a statement, saying basically, if you're not going to kneel during the anthem, don't even bother coming. And then, from my understanding, a few more players dropped out because of that, and basically got down to only one player was going to go, which was Nick Foles. So then Trump came out and said, Philadelphia Eagles, period, are not invited. They are not allowed to come here. Which is a shame, because Chris Long, Malcolm Jenkins, Zach Ertz, they all love doing community work. And it came out that they had a lot of events in place to improve, playgrounds in DC, or go to schools to talk to the kids, or whatnot. Not just the ceremony at the White House. So Trump decided to turn into a ceremony for the flag, for the American flag, since these NFL players don't want to, respect the flag and the anthem and things like that. And listen, I'm not political. I try to stay out of it, but this is starting to get ridiculous with basically Trump versus the NFL. And you know what? I keep seeing some people say it's because the NFL wouldn't let him buy the Buffalo Bills a few years back. It's starting to make me think, like, is it really? I mean, it's kind of petty if it is. It was between, from what I remember, it was between him, Bon Jovi, and I think just the person that ended up buying them. I mean, you've had companies go bankrupt, so why would the NFL want to give a multi-billion dollar maybe team to a person that runs businesses into the ground? So in a way, I don't blame the NFL for not selling to Donald Trump. But don't be taking it out on the players and the fans. And then when you want to say, Philadelphia Eagles fans, your team abandoned you. Well, you know what? They didn't abandon me. It wasn't a contract obligation to go there. It was a right. If they want to go, they could go. If not, that was their right. And I'm okay with some of them saying they didn't want to go. They have their reasons why they're protesting, whether you feel they're right or wrong, or if I feel they're right or wrong. That's their right. That's why we have the amendments. We have these rights to do that. I gotta try to stop being so political. Like I said, I hate I hate being political about this, but it just I'm tired of seeing basically Trump fiddling with the NFL. The NFL passed the anthem policy 2 weeks ago, and that was the league trying to please Trump and pushing it down to the teams to figure out how to punish the players. But so as far as the team not showing up, I'm glad Doug Peterson finally spoke up. I think it was 2 days after. No, it was yesterday. I'm sorry, it was yesterday, the 6th, because they were supposed to go the 5th. And for him to say, I answered enough questions about the whole saga. I don't want to answer anymore. And here's the other part about this saga that irritates me too is, and this is all sports with the media. You had Fox News when it broke out that Trump disinvited the Eagles. Posted a picture of Zach Ertz kneeling on the ground and saying a lot of the Eagles players knelt this year during the anthem, and this is why Trump's not letting them come, and this, that, and the other thing. Listen, I watch every Eagles game from kickoff till triple zeros at the end. I've never seen a Philadelphia Eagle kneel. I've seen them do their form of protesting, which wasn't kneeling, but I've never seen them kneel. And Zach Ertz, rightfully so, went on Twitter and put them on blast. And it turned out the pictures that they were posting were the Eagles players kneeling well before the anthem, saying a prayer for all the players' safeties in the games that day. So Fox News, about hour later, posted a apology saying that they didn't know that these pictures were taken well before the anthem. You are a worldwide probably known news station. How do you not have your ducks in a row before you post that type of stuff and make those type of comments? That goes for any sports writer or analyst or anything like that. But I'm just tired of this whole Trump versus NFL thing. I just wish they would just finally say, you know what, we're going back to running the league how we ran it for all these years and made billions and billions of dollars. We're done listening to you. We're done letting you affect our league. So this past Saturday night, like I said earlier in the show, I got the bare knuckle boxing. I was very impressed. Going into it, I it was only $30. Figured if it's garbage, if it feels like a WWE, pay-per-view, it's only $30. No big deal. I just won't get it again. So me and the fiance, stayed up and watched because she was curious about it. I was explaining to her what it was, and first time since 1889, I think they said it's been legalized, and first time since I think it's 1700s that it's been like commissioned or sanctioned. So I mean, everything was legit as they kept promoting it, and so like I said, I was explaining to her, it's flat out bare knuckles. All they do is they tape your wrist and your thumb, put you in basically a boxing ring, and say beat the crap out of each other. And let me tell you, every fighter bet the crap out of each other. I mean, it was fast paced. It was very bloody. I don't think there was one fighter not cut or bloodied up. Came on about 9 o'clock. Me being used to UFC type pay-per-views, I'm thinking, okay, I'll be over by midnight, 1 o'clock. It was a 10 fight card. The first 3 fights were over within the first 10 minutes of the show. Knockouts, doctor stoppages, stuff like that. And I was live tweeting it, and that's when I was finally completely 100% sold on it. Is when I think it was the second or third fight. One guy had a nasty cut on his forehead, and the ref was keeping a close eye on it, and called timeout to the timekeeper to stop the clock. Brought the doctor in. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And doctor came in. There he had his commission shirt. It's not like the crew shirt or whatever you would see normally, or security type shirts. It was a legit doctor, and they had the stitch man in there. And I was like, wow, okay, this is legit. And from then on, I mean, it was very entertaining. I will say, there was one nasty knockout though. If you could, I'm not sure if it would be on YouTube, but if you look on the internet, look up Pringle versus Shoemaker. I think Shoemaker spells his name Shewmaker. Heavyweights, they were about 250, 260, around that weight. And what they do, what they say, the refs would say toe line, and there was right in the middle of the ring there was the line. They toe it, and how they say fight is scrape knuckles. The ref said toe the line, they toed it, said scrape knuckles. Heavyweight stepped back, both of them, and they're looking. About 9 seconds in, I mean, he unleashed this Shoemaker, unleashed this nasty haymaker. I mean, knocked him out cold. It was late when that happened, probably I want to say about 10:30. I mean, I'm pretty sure I woke up the whole neighborhood. I felt sorry for this guy's great grandkids. He hit him so hard. I thought he was dead. But, you know, he got up, he was fine and everything like that, and it was good to see, you know, that they were safe. And the Shoemaker guy didn't have the microphone, because they would do interviews. Didn't have the microphone near his mouth yet, but you overheard him say to Pringle, "I'm buying you a beer after this fight." So even after these fights, they're back to being friends. And even though the one fight was a friend versus friend, and the one fight that I was really looking forward to was the Bec Rawlins fight. She used to fight in UFC. I was kind of talking about a little bit last weekend. Used to fight in UFC. I just always liked her. She's I believe Australian, so she has that nice hard accent. And I mean, she just demolished this girl. Girl never came out after the first round. She just, threw the towel in. So she became the first women's bare knuckle boxing champion. The heavyweights were having basically a tournament, and after the pay-per-view was all said and done, they interviewed the promoter, and they actually have two more coming up. I believe it said in September and one in later in the year. And I'm telling you what, even if it's $50, I'm paying for it. And I told King he's coming over to watch it, because like he said on his episode, who doesn't like two guys beating the crap out of each other? Whether it's WWE, UFC, NFL, NHL, it don't matter. Then the last fight of the night was Tony Lopez versus, oh Jesus, what was his name? Oh man, I just went blank now. But Tony Lopez, when they were talking about him, they said he actually had a chance to be on the UFC 1 card. Joey Beltran, I think that's who it was that he was fighting. And again, two heavyweights, and by the time the match was done, that one went the distance. By the time the match was done, honest God, Tony Lopez looked like a Ric Flair from a 1990s WCW Starrcade match, where he used to hide a little razor in his forehead. Both guys were bloody. Even after the fight, Joey Beltran said he should have researched it a little bit better, because he didn't know what he was getting into. So I mean, these fights aren't for the faint of heart. But overall, I'd give it a B+. The only reason why I give it a B+ is they gotta get better commentators. These commentators did not know the rules. When the first match came on, they read the rules. It's 90% basically boxing. Standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. You can clinch, but you gotta fight out of it. It won't be stopped. 3 2-minute rounds. So it's 90% boxing rules. But with the clinching, you had to box out of it. And there was 2 or 3 matches that the fighter would clinch, which would be basically grabbing the back of your neck and start punching you. Commentators were like, that's illegal. They should be taking points away, or they gotta break them up, and this, that, and the other thing. That's the rule. I mean, you read it yourself. And as they kept saying everything like that, I'm like I said, I was live tweeting. I started to see some of the UFC fighters even tweeting to Bare Knuckle Boxing, their Twitter account, about, hey, give us a call. We're better commentators. We're more into it and stuff like that. So I would love to see better commentating, or at least for them to understand the rules a little bit better. But other than that, I mean, that was a very entertaining pay-per-view. I really can't wait till the next one, which hopefully, I think they said, would be in September. And then, also with the fighting feel here, we also have UFC 225 coming up this weekend, which I think is a pretty good looking card. There's actually three or four fights I'm looking forward to. The one that I believe is going to be starting off the card is good old CM Punk versus Mike Jackson. I'm sorry, I liked CM Punk when he was a wrestler. I hope he gets destroyed again and calls it a career and just goes back to wrestling. If you followed our shows, a year ago when he first announced, we were making fun of him. I mean, he looked terrible after weight cuts and stuff like that. But I just don't like seeing him in UFC. Another one is Holly Holm versus Megan Anderson. I think I saw somewhere that if Holly Holm wins this fight, she's going up against Cyborg again. Which the first time around was the first time I saw someone give Cyborg a run for her money. And I would like to see that fight happen again. I think that would be another entertaining fight. I mean, she took the shots and everything from her. But to finish off the UFC talk here, Yoel Romero versus Robert Whittaker. I believe for the actual title, that's 2 heavy-handed guys. I feel someone's getting knocked out, and I think it's going to be a good match, a good fight. But with that all being said, it's nice being back again. Hope you guys enjoyed listening to me. Hopefully King will get an episode out, maybe a 0.5 episode, and another week or two, me and King will figure this out and be on the same page with each other. You can follow us on Twitter at ST Sports Podcast. That's for obviously the show. You can follow me at Jimbo ST Sports, and you can follow King at King of Skunk Duck. You could swing by our webpage, staytunesports.wordpress.com. Follow us on Facebook. We're always posting stuff there. Any comments? And listen, anytime that you guys want us to talk about something, or just shoot us a message, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook. You can catch the show on iTunes. Go over to Podbean and check us out there. We're trying to get on some other platforms and get out to the world and take over the world with this thing. But it's been a good show, guys. I'll see you guys next week. It's your good friend Jimbo signing out.